Transurfer and the Transurfing Curious. My name is Renee Garcia and this is TransurfingTV, and today I am flawed. Yay! Oh my god, what an incredible relief this is. Thank God that I found Reality Transurfing and opened my eyes to the truth that everyone is flawed. Everyone is inherently flawed, and when we focus too intently on our flaws, we not only kind of freeze ourselves up, right? Because we're too scared to put ourselves out there in fear that the world's not going to respond to us kindly, right? Insecurities sort of inhibiting action. But also what happens is I've noticed this thing that, and even I've done it myself, where I feel as though if there's something that I want, I have to fix a part of myself first in order for me then to be given like the golden ticket to try to have that thing that I want, right? And this is actually quite sad because I see a lot of people doing this, like thinking that, a romantic relationship or a positive romantic relationship or a really successful profession or a life of just happiness or adventure or whatever is all reserved for the people that are perfect or the people that have already worked on their stuff and resolved their flaws, and then they get to enter this special little club where they can then access higher stuff, right? Again, a successful career, money, romance, good sex, adventure, freedom, whatever it is. And pendulums love to convince us of this, right? That, oh, these people over here they're perfect, and they're perfect, and that's why they've got these things, right? We can see plenty of this on Instagram, my God. That's why they've got these things, and if you just work on yourself for a while, you stay over there or stay away from these people. I don't want you around them. You stay over there and you work on your flaws, and then once you get some of that stuff resolved, then maybe you can go over to this group of people, right? Pendulums are messed up like that. It really is a society, a culture we live in where we feel like all the good stuff's reserved for the perfect people. Here's the thing that I've learned. One, and I used to do this myself, right? I had this really, and I'm just going to be really honest here about one of mine that I look back on and I just laugh, and I think that it was so unfortunate that I thought this way, but I was in a relationship with a person for about 5 years that was really obsessed with physical beauty, and particularly my physical beauty. He wanted me to be super skinny. He wanted me to dress a certain way and act a certain way and be a certain way and do my makeup in a certain way, and he was very, very controlling about my appearance. And I got sucked into this pendulum, and I really thought for pretty much the entire relationship that if I could just get down to a certain weight, right? I had this weight goal. If I could just get down to this weight, then he would love me. How horrible, how freaking horrible is that, right? So it was this idea that I needed to fix something about myself so I could have the thing. And if you didn't watch my video on awareness and creation, this is going to really fall in lines with a lot of that thinking. What I really wanted in that moment was to feel loved. But the box that I had confined myself in, the walls being the pendulums in my reality, the pendulum of, being perfect in my appearance, the pendulum of the boyfriend that had, expectations of me that were, inappropriate, all that stuff, those were the walls of that box, right? Those were the walls of that box. And I wasn't going to actually find the happiness or the love that I wanted within that matrix, right? Within that thing that I had set up for myself. It was inherently flawed. It was inherently flawed. The way that I ended up connecting with love was that I woke up to the attributes of my reality. I became aware of them. I broke down the walls of that box. I allowed myself to come out. And then I did something that I never in a million years would have believed would have got me what it was I was looking for. And that was to really start loving myself, right? Really start loving myself in a very, very deep way. And accepting myself the way that I was, and the way that, I was healthy, right? That I was not trying to do something to myself that was unhealthy or fueled with weird intentions, right? But really just to embrace parts of my personality, my body, who Renee was as a person, and love that person. And it's in doing that I created the love in my life that I actually wanted. It wasn't within that system that I had set up for myself previously. Those walls had to come down, and I had to create a new reality for myself where I could project plenty of love to the mirror, right? Because again, the mirror reflects back to us exactly what we put towards it. So if you're like, oh, I messed up, or oh, I just need to get this perfect, or oh, I'm flawed in this way, then your mirror's going to present back to you more of the same. So in order for me to really, really, really get what it was that I wanted, I needed to live that first. And that old version of me wasn't loving myself. I was battling with myself and my flaws all the time, because there was no actual flaws there, but I and the pendulums in my life had convinced me that there were. And in just letting all of that go, accepting me for who I was, loving myself for who I was, then I was able to actually live the life that I wanted, get the thing that I wanted, right? So it was in accepting my flaws that I got everything that I felt I wasn't capable of getting until I could get rid of those perceived flaws. So as Vadim Zeland says in this amazing little book here, Transurfing in Your Pocket, love it. He says your brain is a giant receiving and transmission device. So you are broadcasting your flaws into the world. You're doing so much, right? And when I say broadcasting your flaws, I mean when you're broadcasting your flaws in a negative way, like something's wrong with you. You're doing a lot. First, you are going to attract people that are also resonating at that frequency. So if you're uncomfortable with your flaws, you're going to attract people that are uncomfortable with their flaws and that are also uncomfortable with your flaws, right? If you are broadcasting your flaws to the world in a negative way, you are going to connect with that version of reality that matches up to that frequency. So if you're saying, well, I'm not good enough and that stuff's for other people and it's not for me, you are going to connect with that version of reality that presents to you information, material, and evidence that is all in line with you're not good enough, those things are for other people, and they're not for you. It's pretty simple. So broadcasting your flaws connects you to a variation of reality where they exist even more deeply as well. This is like, it just keeps getting worse, right? I mean, it was kind of strange in regards to my weight thing. I would like get my weight to a place that I wanted, and then I'd be like, no, just 2 pounds more. Just 2 pounds more, just 2 pounds more. So it was like when I would feed it, when I would project that negative perception of myself to my mirror, it didn't matter what happened in the mirror. It was always projected back at me, do more, right? And this was the same with money for me. And this is ultimately really what ended up breaking me as a human being, because I overworked myself to death, is I just, I thought, okay, well, if I get this amount of money, then I'll be cool. Then I'll be one of those people, right? But then I'd get that amount of money, and then the mirror would be like, no, more. So when you finally go, you know what, enough. I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm flawed. What I have right now is good enough. Who I am right now is good enough. And and this is another benefit to really just accepting I'm flawed, yay, is when you accept your flaws, when you accept your idiosyncrasies and your imperfections and the quirky parts of your personality and all that kind of stuff, you then know what that looks like. So if somebody comes into your life that does not provide you with that level of acceptance that you have for yourself, it's like, go somewhere, go to another sector of reality. Not here. I would never, ever, ever let a man like that previous boyfriend into my life now, right? Because he just would not match up with how I deal with myself. There would be way too much disconnect there. It's just not resonating at the same level anymore at all. So number 2, holding back out of fears of unworthiness keeps you stuck in the alternative space. So again, if your flaws are feeling as though you're inferior, you're unworthy, those things are for other people, they're not for you. You aren't perfect enough. You don't have those kinds of skills. All that sort of thinking of what you don't have and who you aren't and what you can't do, all of that stuff keeps you stuck in the alternative space or the space of variations. It keeps you in a place where you do not venture out of your comfort zone. You do not venture out of your box of limiting beliefs. You do not take anomalous action. That's why I'm such a real big advocate for anomalous action. Get yourself moving in another direction. Take actions that are outside of your comfort zone, that are anomalous to you and your routine. Take actions out of your perceived flaws. There's a thing that I heard of that's actually quite interesting that I was curious to do myself. It's called naked stand-up. And what it is I think there's one in Los Angeles and there's one in New York. People literally, for the first time, get up in front of a crowd of people to do a stand-up routine completely naked, right? While everybody else is clothed. You get up naked and you do a stand-up comedy routine. So the reason that I think this is so unbelievably powerful is that it really puts you into a place where you absolutely exit your comfort zone. You exit your comfort zone in such an extreme way that you just kind of reset everything. And again, no one really cares, right? No one really cares. If you mess up, if you expose yourself and your flaws to the world in a big, extreme way, yes, there's a brief moment where you could experience some sort of embarrassment or something, right? But people quickly forget, they get up out of their seats, they turn the video off, they do whatever, and that whole moment just fades away into the past. So holding back out of your own fears of whatever it is really just, it doesn't pay off in any way for you at all. Like in fact, you could do the exact opposite of this and you are the only one that is going to experience the benefit or the downfall of that, right? And if you don't, you are the only one that's going to experience the downfall. So it's like, it's all you. It's all you. And as I say here, your junk can come along with you. All those people that Instagram has you convinced are perfect and that's why they have all the stuff, they've got junk too. That junk just came along with them. So all your junk can come along with you too. And I was actually talking with a gal the other day on a podcast, amazing person. She was like saying the same thing as me, that she just decided one day that she was going to start doing stuff and she didn't care if she was, whatever her perceptions of herself were. She was just going to start doing. And you can just take all of your things, even if you have a stutter or you're not good speaking publicly, get up and speak publicly then. Put yourself out there and act out and away from that perceived flaw to sort of not only see that it's okay, but that's the way that you actually heal it. It's not retracting back into it, right? Take your junk along with you. That is how you'll heal it. Flaws turn into charm when your importance levels drop. So Vadim Zeland says this in the book. A person overtly focused on their flaws draws more attention to them in a negative way, and people then view them as flaws. If you act like whatever, it becomes your charm. And we all know a person that's got a, certain je ne sais quoi about them, and they're not the most attractive person, but they don't give a fuck. And so their reality doesn't give a fuck either. And people actually, if that person perceives themselves as attractive, then they're attractive. And I've had a couple of boyfriends like that. People are like, what do you see in him? I'm like, I don't know. I think he's hot. I think he's hot. He thinks he's hot. And I don't, it's all about perception, right? So think you're hot and the world will think you're hot. And then you'll actually start being hot. And then, of course, and I've been saying this so much lately, nobody cares. Nobody actually cares. We are so convinced that others are watching us, but others are watching themselves. So while others are preoccupied with themselves, throw yourself out there and sort of evolve out of your perceived flaws and just kind of let it all hang out and realize that when you let it all hang out, there really isn't anything that happens. Like, you can fall. I actually have people that say things to me in the comments. I'm sure you guys have seen some of them. But like the other day, somebody's like, this woman's really bad at this. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter if I'm bad at it. People are still watching. People like it. Right? So this is exactly my point. That thing that person said, this woman's really bad at this, that doesn't actually matter. What matters is I'm doing this. That's what matters, regardless of all of it, right? I'm taking my junk along with me and I'm blasting it out onto you guys, and you guys seem to be enjoying it, right? Okay, this is my 5th video I filmed in a row, and I'm getting a little lightheaded, so I think it's time to call it quits. I don't know when this one's gonna air, but it's the day before my birthday. I've had an epic run with Quantum Boot Camp, filming a bunch of stuff. I led a 2-day seminar with Dr. Salal Rashad. I have been just, so unbelievably productive. And this is the end of my work before I'm going to turn my camera off. And then I'm going to go chill with my boyfriend for a week and celebrate my birthday and Christmas and all that fun stuff. So yeah, this is where I'm going to leave it with everyone. I hope that you can accept a little bit more today, something that you have been maybe calling out as a flaw, and realize that it's an attribute. It's an attribute to who you are and what makes you an individual. Embrace that thing, love that thing, and other people will embrace it and love it too. So have a good one, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to like, comment, all that good stuff, and thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys.